Welkom by Waypoint Connect en vanmiddag het ons vir Tiaan. Tiaan, welcome to Waypoint Connect. So great that you're with us. I hope you guys have got your coffee. With this temperature, we definitely need something warm.
Absolutely, Dirk. Thank you for having me. It's been a really exciting. I've been looking forward all week to be on this podcast. It's something we've had some great names on here. Yeah.
So you've got some big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill. I'm telling you, I'm really stressed, but we'll be fine.
Yeah, you're the right guy for the job. So, Tiaan, our topic for this afternoon is creativity.
Yes.
And part of where you started with Waypoint is creative coffee making.
Yeah.
But that went over into being part of the worship team and then leading the worship team, coming on staff. So in essence, creativity has always been part of what you're about and what you do. So it's so great that you're here sharing with us about creativity. And before we start that, for people that are tuning in that might not know you, maybe just give us a bit information about who you are.
Thanks, Dirk. Yeah. Well, I must say this. I never saw myself as a creative person, you know. And so, yeah, for me, my journey, as you mentioned, you know, I started serving in church doing the coffee. After about 2 weeks, they asked me nicely, is there somewhere else I can serve? Because people weren't drinking the coffee. But yeah, through amazing, you know, in my relationship with God was growing at that stage, and I kind of got into the worship team in that stage, thanks to Dirk. If you don't, so long story, but yeah, Dirk got me involved there, and just as I grew in my relationship with God, the creativity just started going, and and that's how my journey kind of got going. And so in terms of creativity, I love writing, I love making music and making new original music. So that's kind of the main outlet in which I do express my creativity, and it's really a great for me it's been such an amazing outlet to let go of that creativity.
Tiaan, talking about creativity, where do you think does our creativity come from?
You know, Dirk, I was actually thinking, I don't know if you remember Owen McManus. He was we had a message about him, he did a message about a few years ago at Waypoint, and he talked about that human beings, one of the things that really sets us apart from animals is the fact that we are the only creatures that can imagine themselves being something else. Or can imagine a future where different. I mean, and he used the example of like a giraffe doesn't one day think, I don't want to be a giraffe, like one of the, or like a antelope. I mean, one of the most boring things you can think of, just day in, day out eating grass and being eaten. Yeah. And still, even though they have such a mundane routine, no antelope just decides, you know what, today I want to be an artist, you know. And but people just have this amazing ability to dream and think of things and think of a future that hasn't even happened yet, or dreaming of something that they want to be. I mean, that's just amazing. And that's just what I was thinking about today's conversation. That just came up for me, and something that I've realized, we kind of say, you know, there is creative. You get creative people, and you don't get creative people.
Yeah. But I've often heard people say, I'm not creative.
Yeah.
And they kind of like take the pressure and responsibility off themselves to create and say, it's okay that I don't create. That's not for me, and that's not who I am.
I mean, you and I have said that of ourselves before, you know, and I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall in, is to think where God created everyone to be able to create, because that's a part of God that is in every one of us. Now that creating looks different, you know.
And I think that's a key component, because we know that we created in God's image, and that created in His image. It's not just a physical image; it's a who am I and what am I about. And if we look at God, God is the creator. So the essence of God is creating. So if we share in any way of the essence of God, what we share in is the fact that we are made to be creators. And I think you've touched on that fact that the ability to imagine, even if it's just in your mind, you're creating something that doesn't exist. That inherently shows us that we're all capable of creating. Some people are just better at expressing it in words and in music and in a sculpture. Mine looks like a dung beetle. What's left after he's finished with the dung? When I try and sculpt something. But I've got other gifts where I can create in. So maybe speak into that a bit.
Yeah, great point, Dirk. I think if you, I think what we're looking, what in Fastcake is when we look at creative people, we tend to, we think they're creative, but what we're actually seeing, I believe, is sometimes creativity just comes more naturally to certain people. But I love using this example, like Waypoint for Niekerk or Usain Bolt, like I can also run 100 meters. They can run 100 meters. I can also run 100 meters. It's not that difficult. But to do it, but it just comes more naturally to them. It's just something that's more naturally to them that comes easier to them. But I can still do it. And I think that's, when it comes to creativity, I think, firstly, that's the thing. There's people that it comes more naturally to them. But I also think, creativity is, because it's something God-given, it's something different in each person. So we tend to think of creativity as it's art, or it's music, or it's stuff. But I mean, you can be a creative plumber, you can be a creative problem solver, think of creative ways of solving problems. I mean, that is one of the most valuable assets in today's society. I think if we look at today's problems we have, we need some creative problem solving, and I think it's something that you have to be intentional by. That creativity is not something that just happens. It's something you need to be especially if it doesn't come naturally to you.
So I love that. I think a great starting point is the fact to acknowledge the fact that you are creative, because that puts the responsibility back on you to be creative. But it takes the pressure off by saying it doesn't have to fit into a box. I don't have to be another Van Gogh. I don't have to be another Jason Pollock, which Ron Swanson pointed out is just lazy painting and being able to use your fingers. But it links in with the question that we've got: how can people go about discovering which area to invest their creative power into? And maybe you can share how you discovered that it's music, and kind of answer the question from that perspective.
I love this. There was this book about white noise. I can't remember the title. It was at GLS, where the lady, she wrote about how to put in your daily life, to plan 5 minutes or so, to just sit. And I know for some people this is really easy. For me, it's something that's really easy. But for some people this is hard. Is just to sit and literally think. Let your mind just go. Not to think about what I need to do tomorrow or stuff, but just let your imagination go. And that's actually big, because in that could actually inform the way that you express letting your mind just go and see where that takes you. And that, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, and I think in that you can start planning, not planning, but you can start saying. So for me, for instance, I am a very imaginative person. I kind of love to let my imagination go, and as I realized, okay, I'm actually not that bad in music. That translated into music, and it's something that I was good at, and it's something that I was. So I think if you find something that you're actually good at, that's a way of expressing your creativity. Then the other part is also trying something new that you've never done before, and trying different things, trying as many things, if you want to do art, do art, if you want to philosophize. If you want to do music, if you want to rap, write a rap song,
And the amazing thing is, with technology these days, it's easy to go onto YouTube and just copy what somebody's doing there. So many instructional videos on how to sculpt, paint, play a music instrument, and just try out different things, because now it's not costing you money. You're not paying somebody to teach you, but using that as a way of figuring out what it is that kind of triggers your creativity, and then maybe it's worth investing money in doing a lesson by some of our local people that we have that are able to teach you musical instruments, but you've gone through the process of figuring out if that's really what you want to invest your time and money into. So I just love that. And to kind of wrap up the conversation about creativity, why do you think is it so important? So it's great being creative and being able to say, man, this didn't exist. Now because of me applying my talents that God has given me, this is now there. But to what end and to what purpose?
So we just finished the series Halftime, and I talked about, and I think it was week 2 that I spoke about your time. Is where do you invest your time? And because time is such a valuable thing, you know, it's something that you can't get back, and it's one of the most valuable things you can give someone. And we looked at how do I spend my time better, and what do I invest my time in? Now, spending time in creativity, you know, that I said, you know, letting your mind just go, or being, you know, setting aside time for creativity is an excellent way to do your time, because think about it, whether when you've created something, and those of you who've experienced that, it does something to you, and I believe that's God-given. It satisfies something in you that you never thought maybe was there, of being able to create something. And it's not necessarily for all to see. It's maybe just for you, just that sense of accomplishment, that sense of, wow, I did something. Or, oh, wow, I can't believe this came out of me. And I think the spiritual purpose to that is even more significant when you actually experience God working through you, through being creative. I think in my life, that has been the biggest defining point for me, is growth in God and in spiritually was experiencing God using me, experiencing God using my gifts and what he gave me. So that's what I truly believe. Firstly, that creativity is for everyone. And secondly, why you should spend time with it. Why it's not something you should wait for when I get the time. You're never going to have the time. It's something that you have to be intentional for, and I want to encourage everyone to explore that and do as many things as you can. And it doesn't mean you have to be the Jackson Pollock, not Jason Pollock, or Banksy of your field, you know, or John Bon Jovi. No, even if it's just for you, that's fine.
I love that. Awesome. Great. So what we talked about earlier is maybe touch on some relevant topics, current topics. And I think one of the hot topics at the moment, apart from looting, so maybe just let us just spend 2 minutes on looting, because I think it's a no-brainer in terms of where we stand on that, where we see that. My view on this, despite the whole linking in with Zuma and unrest that's developing there, I think on the one hand it's difficult to find any good in this, but I think it'll be a wasted opportunity not to use this as a means of looking differently at our environment, our interaction with people, each other, where we sit as a country. So it gives us a unique opportunity to experience and see things from a different perspective, things that were only talked about theoretically. We've actually seen and people have experienced. So from that perspective, it gives us that opportunity. But on the whole, it's definitely not something that we can condone. So it highlights on the one end people's I'm struggling to find the right word. The state where people are in, where they feel wronged, where they feel dissatisfied, and the space that they find themselves in to think that my logical next course of action to address this is something as lawless and as harmful to other people as looting. So that's why I'm saying it's giving us a unique window um, into our country, and we need to address these topics that we've talked about that hasn't been highlighted. But on the whole, it's destructive, it's negative, it's got short-term and long-term implications that are far-reaching that people aren't realizing and acknowledging, and wow, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Dirk, you know, it's a crazy world. The world is it's broken. So I really believe, you know, you can either be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. So I think for us, where we are sitting at, you know, looking at it, and for some of us it's more closer to home than others. I think firstly, you know, is the easy thing to do is to give into fear, to give into anxiety, give into that. I mean, we've also been through COVID. I mean, which a lot of those same feelings and stuff came up, you know. Should I be moving? Should I be leaving? Should I be, you know, what's the future hold? But I read the story yesterday of a community in Durban. I can't remember the name, where the community leaders and some of the students, the next generation of that community, decided they're going to start cleaning up, and they've just started cleaning up street for street. They started cleaning up their community. I mean, there's a prime example. Am I part of this? Am I going to let fear grip me, or am I going to step up and condemn this, but also going to take a stand and do something different? Because the easy thing is to respond, to respond in likewise. But I believe, for me, the question is for myself: how am I going to respond? And as a Jesus follower, I think we have to. We are here to heal the world. We're not here to bring condemnation. We're not here to break to break down. You know. So
our main purpose isn't forwarding negative memes and jokes.
Because you're not part of the solution. You're just adding. And again, those are easy stuff to do. It's easy to give into the fear. It's much harder to say, you know, no, I'm not gonna listen to that. I choose to be the solution. You know.
And I think for our country, we're at a watershed moment where it's time for each and every one of us to actually start taking ownership of the solution and contributing towards the solution, however small we think it might be, because that's still one step closer, even if it's a small step, than being apathetic and being distant and saying it's not my problem. And it's taking me back to that message we did with Zolile Daimani, where he said, if we're in a rowboat and the leak is on your side of the rowboat, I can't say, at least it's not on my side. It's our boat that's leaking. It's my problem in as much as it is your problem. And I think this is the time for us as a country to start taking ownership and start contributing towards the solution, and not just stand back and fold our arms and criticize and condemn.
Yeah, and just in that, I mean, I just want to, just our heart just really goes out to the guys in Natal and I know in Durban, and just I'm so proud of the leaders there standing up, the church leaders, not just the church leaders, but just the Christians, Jesus followers. They're actually really standing up and taking ownership, you know, and changing that atmosphere there. I got a message this morning that it looks like there's still, you know, there's still stuff burning down and so, but it looks like the tide is turning, the atmosphere is turning there, and I'm just so grateful for that. So it's awesome.
Tiaan, our last topic, which is we've got 5 minutes for. To vaccinate or not vaccinate?
Let's see, what do you think?
So the important thing is, this is an opportunity to take counsel from two experienced people like myself and Tiaan. It's not the point of this conversation. And the point also isn't to say that once you've watched this, then you know that you should vaccinate or not vaccinate. We're just like looking at the topic that everybody's talking about and nobody's got answers for. So take it away, Tiaan.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear and a lot of questions that I get of people is firstly, should I vaccinate, shouldn't I vaccinate? You know, about the biblical impact. Does it mean that, you know, that Bill Gates is going to track me now and another, and
is this the mark of the beast?
Yes, and all those things. And I honestly believe that's hogwash. I don't think it's the problem is not should I get vaccinated or not. I believe and I'm speaking to Jesus followers here now. I believe if you have a relationship with God and you get peace about in your heart about whatever your decision is to take the vaccine or not, and the Holy Spirit guides you, you do as the Holy Spirit guides you. I can't tell you to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. I can't tell you that that's not, and I don't actually think that that's the issue. I think for Christians, you have to in your heart decide and have peace in your heart about whatever that decision might be, and go and know that no one can force you to do something that you are not comfortable with. That's the other thing, and that's what people are also fighting for now is, you know, the right to choose whether you can take it or not. But I think the other thing also is to be sensitive, you know, to not, if it's someone's decision to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, that is their decision. That's something God put on their heart. You can't judge someone. I mean, we are not called to judge anyone, you know, and just because you differ on that, or you differ on, me and you differ on so many topics. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we can judge one another based on that, you know.
Yeah. And what struck me about this conversation is the irony of the situation we find ourselves in. That in this day and age where information is more accessible to us, we sit with more misinformation than information. Because how many videos have I not seen that people have forwarded to me where this theory and that theory and why you should and why you shouldn't. And the reality is I have got as little information about that person that's making that which sounds scientifically informed information scope than I have of the next one. So this just creates the climate again for fear mongering. And I think that's the strategy of the enemy, is create the space where fear exists. And if we look at it from a different perspective, where we say, you've got a choice, either way, I respect your choice, I'm not here to judge you on that, and I'm going to allow God to guide me in this process. And then he suddenly just brings focus, clarity, and peace to the whole conversation, versus this whole, I don't know, nobody knows, and what do I do?
And ultimately, I believe, you know, relationship should be more essential to preserve than should I or shouldn't I vaccinate. The relationship is the most important thing. If the vaccination debate is going to cause a strain on a relationship, the relationship is more important. I think, and that's so important. You know?
And instead of something being a solution, it ends up being an obstacle, and it ends up being a tool used to separate people and bring separation, which is not what we're about. Awesome. Tiaan, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dirk.
I know you're super busy, so I really appreciate the time.